Hello, Katie Colson here. Welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to be doing a long-awaited video that I swear y'all have been asking me to do this for 2 years, and my indecisive ass just could never commit to it. And it is book recommendations based on your zodiac sign. Now, we're going to have to say a couple things before we get into it, okay? And that is, one, I am not a monolith, and I am certainly not an astrologer. I only know what I know, and that is a lot of times either memes that I see on the internet, research I've done on the internet, or experience of real life people that I have of those zodiac signs and my history with them. And I also want to say that I highly apologize if you get offended by anything that I say. Just know that as a Gemini, I can tell you without a doubt that there is no such thing as good signs or bad signs. There are good people and bad people, and they all exist within all of the zodiac signs. Like, go look at a list of serial killers and you'll find your sign. This is going to be the umbrella term of sun sign. Now, that is very overarching, and that does not even come close to all of the nuances of a human being. That's just the meme of who you are as a person. And all of that being said, I know it was a long intro, but let's jump right into our first sign, which is the baby of the zodiac, Aries. If you were born between March 21st and April 19th, then you are an Aries. And Aries is ruled by Mars, which is the planet of war. But it also holds over sex, determination, and energy. And this lends Aries to having very powerful leadership skills, determination, as well as aggression. My first recommendation for Aries is going to be very on the nose. I'm sorry, but it's Lord of the Flies. But this is about a group of boys who are abandoned on this deserted island, and they are having to survive without societal structures, without adults, without rules. And Aries are the baby of the zodiac, and they are very quick to action. They're quick to anger. They're quick to volatility and ruthlessness. And that is how the boys find themselves in this situation, because without all of those societal structures, it's very easy for people to fall into animalistic behaviors, which is very characteristic of the volatility of an Aries. Now, I know that Aries also really love to watch a brawl, and they love to root for their favorite character. So I think that an Aries would really enjoy watching the fight for fight, bite for bite of Lord of the Flies. My second recommendation is a very similar concept and a very similar Aries energy that if you liked Lord of the Flies, you will also love The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Now, the reason that I picked this one in particular, not only because this is about a group of kids that basically battle royale, have to kill each other, and whoever wins becomes like this famous competitor in the capital. And this holds something that Aries really, really appreciate, which is bluntness and getting to the point. They don't like to dilly-dally. They just want you to tell them straightforward what's going on. And Suzanne Collins is amazing at that. When I tell you, you will read page 1 and you'll be gripped because she wastes no time getting to the action. Literally none. So much happens in this book. So much death, so much aggression, so much fighting, so much heart, and like a character that is genuinely like fighting for herself, for her family, and for the people, and for a mission. And I just feel like Aries will eat this up. The Martian by Andy Weir. So this is a sci-fi where we are following Mark Watney, who is a botanist and an astronaut. So he goes up into space, and through some situation that occurs, he becomes stranded in space with a limited amount of water and air. And he doesn't know when or if anyone is going to be able to come and save him before he dies of these situations. So due to the botany that he knows, he is struggling trying to figure out how to create an ecosystem where he can survive and continue to have water and sustenance. So I think an Aries would really enjoy this because, one, the bravery and the unrelentingness to not give up, I think, is very Aries. And it is such an amazing story about such an amazing man who I think an Aries would really adore. Next, if you were born between the dates of April 20th and May 20th, you are an earth sign and a Taurus, who is ruled over by Venus, which is the planet of love. It is also the planet of luxury. So this is influencing Tauruses to really value high quality goods as well as sex and opulence and indulgence. And it leads them to having an air of sensitive, sensual, and sexual energy. So when I think of Tauruses, I think of historical fiction. I think it's their sturdiness, their understanding, and down-to-earthness of an earth sign that makes me think of historical fiction, and as they are old souls. So the first thing I'm going to suggest is The Nightingale by Chris Kristen Hanna. Now, the main reason that I am going to recommend this is because of the main character and older sister, Vianne, who I believe to be a Taurus. Now, this is set in World War II at the very beginning when Nazis are occupying. And Vianne has her husband who goes out to war and she's left alone with her young daughter. Now, her house is commandeered by a Nazi soldier. Now, Vianne does not want any part of the war. She wants to bury her head in the sand and pretend like nothing's happening and take her head out of the sand when the war is over. Now, that is a very Taurus thing to do. You cannot get Tauruses to move. If they have gone in their house, they're not coming back out. I don't care how many drinks you offer, they're not leaving that house. But if you can make them think that not only is it their idea, but it's a good idea, a Taurus will stop at nothing. They will roll right over you to get what they need. And that is what Vianne does in this book. She, by having her house commandeered by this Nazi soldier, realizes that he is in very close proximity to her young daughter, which she loves more than anything in the world. And she decides to combat the war in her own subtle, soft, but determined and strong at the same time way. And Vianne is such a loyal character, which I do also really associate with Tauruses. Not only is it historical fiction and absolutely stunning, but I think you would really resonate and adore Vianne. And of course, I have to recommend a slow burn romance because Tauruses are so sensual and romantic, even though they don't obviously show it outwardly. I think that reading about it can be very cathartic. So I decided to pick a very long, very well-known romance, and that is All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. And I think Tauruses will really enjoy the Taurus energy of the man in this book because he is like the grumpy to the girl's sunshine, and the sunshine is so relentless and he is so stubborn and grumpy, which are definitely things I associate with a Taurus. Like the biggest thing about a Taurus is how stubborn they are. And this is about a girl who goes and rents an Airbnb, but when she gets there, finds out it isn't an Airbnb and it's this guy's house, and his son rented out the basement without his dad knowing. And the dad's like, you cannot stay here. But then as the main character fights and fights and fights to be like, I promise I'm a good person, like I won't get in the way, I have nowhere else to go, he reluctantly agrees to let her stay there, and over the course of like 600 pages, she slowly breaks down his walls and he falls in love with her, and it's really sweet. So if you want a long book that a Taurus can curl up with on the couch under a heavy blanket with a warm drink and not move for hours and hours, which is the most Taurus activity I can possibly think of, then I would highly suggest All Roads Lead Here. Carrie Soto is back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And in this, we're following Carrie Soto, who is a retired tennis player, but she holds the most championships and medals of any tennis player. But then this new upcoming tennis player is about to take her crown. So Carrie Soto is like, absolutely not. I'm going to get back in the game, even though she's much older than all of the other competitors. Nobody thinks she stands a chance, but they call her the battle axe, and she is ruthless. She doesn't have a lot of emotional tact when it comes to speaking with people, and it takes a lot to hurt her feelings, which is something that you can commonly find in a Taurus. And if they do get their feelings hurt, they don't outwardly show it as well as other signs do. They keep things very close to the vest. I think that Tauruses would love seeing Carrie Soto fight so hard for what she wants and stubbornly not give in. And a Taurus will feel so vindicated seeing how all that stubbornness and hard work actually pays off and can get you what you want, no matter how much time it takes. And then we have my sun sign, Gemini. So if you were born between the dates of May 21st to June 20th, you are the pinnacle of an air sign. You are a Gemini who is ruled by Mercury, the planet of communication. Now, this planet also rules over curiosity, intellect, and quick wit. So this leads Geminis to be the most chattiest, most open-minded, and most social of all of the zodiac signs. Now, I'm going to apologize for all the other signs because this one quite clearly is going to be the most in-depth for my recommendations. And if you're a Gemini, I'm telling you right now, I know you're going to like these books, okay? So the first one is going to be a book that you cannot get bored while you're reading it because Geminis get bored very easily. Their minds are always racing and it's really hard to hold their interest for long. So I'm going to be recommending The One by John Mars. But this is set in a near future, kind of an Elon Musk future, where there is a DNA test where you send in your DNA and it will tell you, based on everyone else that has sent in DNA, who is the most scientifically accurate to be your soulmate. Now, that sounds well and good, but we're following a lot of different characters and seeing how the world is being shaken by this test. Because as you can imagine, say you're married and you take the test and you don't get your partner. What are you going to do? Are you going to leave them? What if you've been married for 30 years? What if you get assigned a soulmate that has passed away since they took the test? What if you get assigned to a soulmate that lives in Syria and you're like, I don't have money to go there. Like, what are we going to do? So it's very interesting. So I would highly recommend this because, again, I can't stress you enough how much it's impossible to get bored with this book. My next recommendation is Playing Nice by J.P. Delaney. And I cannot tell you how much a Gemini is going to eat this up because this is going to lend to a Gemini something that they adore over everything else. And that's telling stories. They love entertaining people, and this is going to give you fodder for weeks. When I tell you, I was reading this and I was telling every single person that would possibly stop for half a second in front of me the plot of this book and asking what they would do. I was talking to people I hadn't spoken to in years, let me tell you. So this is about this family who they have a son, okay, and like 4 or 5 years into raising this son, they get a knock on the door and it's another family with a son the same age. And they're like, that's our son and this is your son. They got switched in a hospital and they have proof. So what would you do? Would you give up this son that you've bonded to and been raising for 5 years because the other son is your biological son, like by blood? Like, what would you do? What would you do? Oh my God. And it gets so much crazier after that. So I don't want to get into it, but I'm telling you, you'll read this book. You'll be like a fourth of the way through it and you will be calling people and everyone is entertained by you telling them the story. I'm telling you, you'd think like, oh my God, people are going to get bored. No, they're not. Every single person I was describing the situation in this book to was riveted. And let me tell you, as a Gemini, I was eating it up. Notes on an Execution by Dania Kakofka. Now, this is about Ansel, a serial killer who kills women, and we follow him as he has 13 hours left to live before he is sentenced to death. So we do get his perspective, but mainly we get the perspective of the women who have been most affected by his crimes. So you get the point of view of the FBI agent who is actively trying to find him. You get the point of view of his mother, of his brother's daughter. You get the point of view of his wife's sister, and such and so forth. So this is a book that is discussing the death penalty and whether or not it should be in effect. But the thing that is going to make a Gemini love this is because Geminis love to play devil's advocate. They always have to get every single side of the story. We get the point of view of every different perspective on the death penalty. We get a perspective from someone who is working in the criminal justice system and agrees with it. We get the point of view of someone who wants to abolish it. We get the point of view as someone who wants to hate it but doesn't, somebody that wants to love it but can't. And this author doesn't tell you how to feel. That is where the Gemini is going to be obsessed with this because I read it 3 times in 1 year and it was my best book of 2022. She doesn't tell you how to feel. She gives you all the information and says, do with that what you will. And it's beautifully written. Like, it's about a serial killer. Like, Geminis, I'm begging you, read this book. Cancers are born between June 21st and July 22nd, and they are ruled by the moon, which makes them the rulers of emotions. So just like the tide ebbs and flows with the pull of the moon, so are Cancers pushed and pulled through their heightened empathy, making them the most empathetic, nurturing, and maternal of all of the zodiac signs. The first recommendation is Book Lovers by Emily Henry, which is a contemporary romance. And this is a book that also a couple Cancers in my life have read and adored and cried reading it because they just connected to the energy of Nora in this book so much. So this is about Nora, who is a literary agent. She has a very hard exterior and gooey center, which is the epitome of a Cancer, and they are symbolized by the crab. If you know a Cancer, you know that they're not really crybabies. Like, they do cry a lot in private, but they have a very hard outward shell because they don't want to be seen as crybabies. They're very big in the I'd rather scream than cry, so I'm gonna scream, which makes Cancers, honestly, almost as volatile as an Aries, if not more volatile and combustive as an Aries, in my opinion. So Nora is known as the Ice Queen or the Ice Bitch at her literary agency because she really cares about her career and she will put emotions aside in order to further her career and the goal that she's going toward. And people see her as being emotionless and not caring about anything. So she meets this guy who is also in the bookish realm, and they had a bad experience a while back, and now they kind of look at each other like they're enemies. But this is following Nora having to break down her walls bit by bit. And when I tell you it does not all happen at once, which is the experience you will have with a Cancer, it does not all happen at once, but bit by bit, she breaks down those walls in order to let him in. So if you haven't read it yet and you're a Cancer, I would highly suggest it. The next one is For the Nostalgia. Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. But Cancers love nostalgia. They are older than their years and they love looking back on things that they know they're gonna love. They love a comfort show. They love a comfort book. They love comfort clothes. They will have shirts, like their most favorite shirt will have holes in it because they've worn it so many times and washed it so many times. I am absolutely certain that if you know a Cancer, they have one of the shirts I'm talking about. Every single one I've ever met does. And this has been reimagined and readapted so many times for a reason. It's a comfort classic, okay? Now, at its heart, this is about a family who is living together and loving despite tumultuous relationships that go on between them, and despite arguments and even separation, they love each other above anything else. And I think that the maternal energy of a Cancer would really love this because it's women taking care of women and lifting up women. And I just think that women love and family love would really appeal to a Cancer. The last book I'm going to recommend for Cancers is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. So this is following a senior in high school and her having a very young daughter and an ailing grandmother, where she is basically the parent to both of them and the sole provider of money for both of them. So she is not only dealing with school, but also the overwhelming stress of being a provider at such a young age. And the only place that she can decompress and find any peace is while she's cooking in the kitchen. She is very talented, and we are following in this book her perseverance and her becoming a chef. And Cancers have a coping mechanism, and it's cooking. Tauruses love to eat, Cancers love to cook, okay? Cancers don't even eat the stuff they make. What I'm telling you, a Cancer will open their fridge and be like, oh, this piece of celery is about to go bad. Okay, I better make something out of it. And then they'll proceed to take every single vegetable or anything, any ingredient that they possibly have in their kitchen and spend hours cooking it all down into a stew and then put it in the refrigerator and never eat it. Do you know how many Cancers I know that do that? Like literally every other day. It's insane. So I think a Cancer would love to hear about the cooking and the de-stressing of cooking and a character that really resonates and relates to them. Leos are born between July 23rd and August 22nd, and they are ruled by none other than the sun. That's right, the biggest and brightest star that represents identity, vitality, and creativity. Literally, Leos are the nexus that all other planets, all other signs revolve around. So of course they're the loudest, they're the brightest, they're talented, they're confident, they're loud and brave. The first suggestion is so obvious, it literally needs no introduction. I don't even know why I'm saying it, because if you haven't read it yet, you're not a Leo. It's Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I would highly suggest the audiobook. This character, Daisy Jones, is absolutely a Leo. Her personality enters the room before she does. She is fiery, she's sexy, she's talented, she's confident. Like, picture Stevie Nicks in the 70s and you're seeing Daisy Jones. But essentially, it is about a girl who is a very talented singer, and she joins a band where the guy is the main singer, and he does not want to have to kowtow to this girl because she's a newbie and she's a girl. He doesn't want any part of that. And she is like, no, the fans want me. I'm talented, and I'm not going to stand behind you just because you're a man, okay? And they have this kind of like on and off again tumultuous romance that's just such Leo energy. Like, she is so fiery and like bombastic and amazing. And that's all I'm going to say about it, because literally tell me something that's more Leo. If you're a Leo, I would highly suggest the Veronica Speedwell series by Deanna Raybourn. Now, this is a historical mystery romance where you're following Veronica Speedwell, who is a lepidopterist, who basically is a butterfly hunter, and then Stoker, who's a taxidermist. Now, they keep finding themselves thrown into these mystery-solving expeditions that people are just asking them to solve crimes, and they're like, okay, I'm looking for an adventure, let's go. So Stoker is the person who not only will let Veronica not only get away with her super bombastic giant energy, that she will not kowtow to a man. She will not diminish a single characteristic for any man. And Stoker not only adores her for this, but helps her pursue all of anything that she ever wanted to accomplish and will squash anybody that tries to diminish her. He's like, absolutely not. She's a star. Like, I'm telling you right now, Leos will eat this up because this is the relationship they want. Okay, Leos, are you out there? Stoker is your man. Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I'm not going to describe what this book is about because I don't want to spoil it. And every time I try to describe it, I inherently spoil something. But I think that Leos would love this because they would love reading about Amy Dunn, who will not stand behind a man. Amy knows she's pretty. She knows she's smart. She knows she's better than you, and she will not be gaslit into believing that she's not. And can a Leo not relate? Okay. I know Leos get a bad rap for being egotistical, competitive, taking up too much space, but I love them for it. And they earned every single inch of that space by literally being better than everyone else. And I think that Leos would love reading about Amy in this book because she will do anything to prove that she's not boring. Anything. And I mean, I love it. I think any sign would love this, but I think Leos will get a special vindication out of it. Virgos are born between August 23rd and September 22nd and are ruled similarly to Gemini by the planet Mercury, but it is in its second wave. So it is more leaning toward analytics and logic than it is social communication. So Virgos love problem solving. And in order to get your vision from point A to Z, they use Mercury and its communication in order to get them there more quickly. Again, hear me out. I feel like everybody's going to roll their eyes, but when I tell you it's one of my most transformative books of all time, The Magical Art of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. Listen, I get it. You're like, oh my God, I get it. It's a Virgo, like tidying up. No. This will change your life. If you're a Virgo, it will. I'm telling you, it will. This is most commonly recommended to Libras, but I don't agree because Libras are about aestheticism and Virgos are about functionality. And Marie Kondo does not care about it looking pretty. She cares about everything being neat, crisp, clean lines, everything being the same shape so that it can fit all into the same place. And that's a Virgo's freaking dream, okay? They do not like their already overly taxed brains being taken up by the visual clutter of their space or having too much stuff. So not only does Marie Kondo tell you logically how you can unhaul and get rid of things that you are no longer useful in your life, but she also tells you how to store those things and how to optimize your storage space. And I really think that this is like a Virgo's wet dream. And then I have Confessions by Kane Minato. And this is following a female school teacher whose daughter has recently passed away. Now she sits all of her class down on the last day of school and says, this is my last day. I know that one of y'all killed my daughter and I'm going to ruin your lives. And we follow as she sets out on this meticulous plan of revenge. And the reason that I think that a Virgo would love this is because the plot twists in this book, they plot and they twist. Oh, they plot and they twist. Oh my God. And a Virgo is a literary detective, okay? They are always trying to figure out what's going on. They're gathering clues. They're trying to anticipate what's happening next, who did it, what's going to happen in the end. And I think that this is one of the only books that I can be sure will shock a Virgo, which will be a very welcome surprise for them because I feel like they probably often anticipate what's going to happen next. This is something that they would actually have a lot of fun reading because I do not think that you can anticipate what comes next in this book. And I mean that for literally every single chapter. Next is the only other book that I have not read myself, but many of my friends have, and I've heard many people discuss it, and it is Normal People by Sally Rooney. Now, this is about these two high schoolers, a boy and a girl who meet. One's popular and one's not, and we're following them through their tumultuous relationship of on again, off again, where they're deeply toxic, but they love each other so much, and they suffer from such miscommunication, and they're both such hot messes, and you're following them over a span of their lives, of them coming together, breaking up, coming together, breaking up. And the reason I think that a Virgo would love this is because Virgos are so judgmental. They're so judgmental. They hold themselves to an incredibly high standard and they expect others to match them. And I think that reading this book would at the very least be like validating and kind of sedating to a Virgo, because no matter what's going on in your life, Virgo, no matter what your relationship looks like, I've been told it cannot be messier than these two's relationship. So at the very least, they're a hot mess and you'll love to judge them for it. Septembers are born between September 23rd and October 22nd, and similarly to Taurus are ruled by Venus. But in its second wave, this lends more toward peace and harmony and relationships, but it does also have romance and love and beauty, but more so in a aestheticism. Bunny by Mona Awad. Now this is a weird, off the cuff book. It is so strange, but this really represents the scales of the Libra, in my opinion. So these girls in this book, they call each other Bunny and they're a cult. Oh, you're so pretty, Bunny. Oh my God, nobody's like you, Bunny. Like that. And they care so much about beauty and their aesthetic, like more than anything else, basically. But our main character, Samantha, is not part of this group. And she hates the bunnies because they don't like her. And the bunnies don't like her because they think she's weird and she doesn't fit their aesthetic, okay? Because here's the thing, Libras are judgmental. They have a dark side. They are just way better at keeping it hidden than you would think that they would be based on their internal monologue, but they are good at it. So the scales come in really deeply when these bunnies see what Samantha can do and the power that she has, and all of a sudden they flip the script and want her in their gang, and they're like, oh my God, Bunny, and acting totally differently. But then Samantha flips the script because when she gets an invitation to their club, she immediately is ecstatic and is like, oh my God, they want me? What? And she becomes one of them. And she literally falls into their aesthetic so deeply. I know I'm saying the word aesthetic so much, but again, Libras, everybody. I apologize because I only have 2 books for Libra because this is the sign that I probably know the least. So one of the books that I would represent is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. Now, again, this is the scales. So we have our main character, Star, who is a young Black girl in a mainly white community. And she is hanging out with one of her childhood friends back when she lived in a predominantly Black community. And they are driving, they get pulled over by the police, and her friend is shot and killed by a police officer. She witnesses this, and a riot starts, and a lot of people want her to be the face of it, and she wants to do something, but she doesn't want to be the person that has to do it. And I think that the struggle of not only the oppression, but the forcibly being the face of an event and struggling with wanting to do something, but not wanting to, and not knowing how, and not knowing if you're strong enough, and fighting against authority and doing what's right and the justice. I think all of that would keep a Libra engaged. And I also think that Star could be a Libra herself. Scorpios are born from October 23rd to November 21st and are ruled by the planet Pluto, which rules over death and rebirth, and also has a special tie-in to sex and mystery, which makes these signs both hypnotic and irresistible, while also being dark and gloomy. A Diary of Blood by S.T. Gibson. Now this screams Scorpio, just like the cover alone screams Scorpio. It is fantasy, it's twisted romance, it's dark, it's broody, it's sensual, it's gothic, it's everything. So this is kind of a retelling of The Brides of Dracula. So we're following Constanta and how he takes her in and transforms her and gaslights her and gets her into this really emotionally manipulative relationship. And she tells us on the very first page that she has killed Dracula and the love of her life, and that she is trying to write letters to Dracula explaining why she did this. Scorpios. Their meme is literally always a goth. They are dark, they are broody, they are mysterious, very vampire-esque, okay? But they have a dark side. If you cross a Scorpio, if you betray them, betray their heart, it is over for you, okay? So I'm just imagining Constanta like sitting at this like old wooden desk in the middle of the night in a castle with the window open and the soft like harp playing and the breeze coming in, and there's like one candle and she's writing with her quill in her journal. That is what I picture this book is like. And if that's not a Scorpio, like what is? And also, Bram Stoker is a Scorpio. So then we have a thriller, They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. And this is following a female professor who every year decides to get vindication on men who have hurt women. So if someone essays a girls on campus, she will pick that person to kill. And you will follow her kind of rooting for her, like knowing it's wrong, but also kind of rooting for her. And I think that Scorpios would really connect with one thing about this book especially, and it's that this main character remains very emotionally aware because she needs to be aware of women who are in danger or who are uncomfortable and might have a story behind that, so that she can kind of ask questions about it, get to know more, get them to feel comfortable with her so that she can understand what happened to them and she can enact revenge on their behalf. But then she also remains emotionally distant so as not to be held responsible for any of this or tied to any of these actions. Now that screams Scorpio because they are a water sign. They are emotional and they care. If you come to them with a sad story, they're going to listen, and on their face, you're going to see the sadness. Like you're going to see it. But they are emotionally distant because they're so mysterious. And honestly, this main character screams Scorpio because she has to keep everything close to her chest, and Scorpios are the best sign at keeping themselves to themselves. And don't worry, I did not forget that y'all are a water sign, okay? They're secret softies. We have Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is following Chloe Brown, who is very set in her ways. She doesn't really make room for fun or relationships, But after an accident, she realizes how close death really can be and decides she's going to make a bucket list and she's going to work on getting all of these things done. The first of which being to live on her own, because she has up until now, even in adulthood, been living with her parents because she is chronically ill. Now, she moves into this apartment and the landlord, Red, has the hots for her, but she doesn't really get that. And he's like this kind of burly, like artist, and she's eccentric, but he decides to help her try and get through this bucket list while they're falling in love with each other. And I think that Scorpios would really love seeing someone try so hard to get out of their rut and their routine, because Scorpios, while being a water sign and being romantic and sexual, they get stuck in their ways and it's really hard to get them to veer out of their own lane. So watching this character try so hard to pull herself out of that, and then another character, Red, try so hard to climb over the walls that Chloe has built for herself, I think that a Scorpio would really love that, because I think it is really hard to get into the inner circle of a Scorpio. It's really hard to break down all of those walls that they've put around themselves and then seeing their true water sign self. And also, Scorpios will love the spice in this book. Sagittariuses are born between November 22nd and December 21st and are ruled by the planet of Jupiter, which is the ruler of luck and growth. So this really leads to an adventurousness and an optimism on life and kind of combats their deep fear of being limited and held back. My first recommendation is You by Caroline Kepnes. Now, Joe Goldberg is a Gemini. I know that. He's not a Sagittarius, okay? But this has the dark humor of a Sagittarius. Sagittariuses are one of the funniest of the zodiac, tied maybe only with Cancer. They are hilarious, but their sense of humor is so dark, and they have severe foot and mouth syndrome where they will say things and you're like, I mean, that was funny, but like, you cannot repeat that in public. What are you talking about? So we're following a serial killer and him following and becoming obsessed with these women and going from woman to woman and then killing people that stands in his way from obsessing over these women. It is crazy, but when I tell you it's hilarious, it is so freaking funny, okay? So I'm telling you, if you're a Sagittarius and you're out there, read this book. You will not be disappointed. The Diviners by Libra Bray. This is an odd one to recommend, but there are so many aspects of this book that scream Sagittarius to me. Mainly that the main character, Evie O'Neill, is a Sagittarius. Sagittariuses, not in a bad way, but they're big partiers, okay? Or at least some of them. Most of the ones I know are huge partiers, big drinkers. You don't have to invite them to the party. They're already there and they're 3 drinks in, but not in a bad way. They are not your clumsy, crying, angry drunks. They are the life of the party. And our main character deals with PTSD, coping by drinking and throwing herself into parties, which again, if you're a partier of a Sagittarius, you're going to really relate to that. But this is also following a fantastical magical element where all of the main characters have some sort of magical ability and they're all trying to hunt down and find this serial killer in 1920s New York City who is killing and dismembering children. So it's fun, it's funny, it is like whimsy of the jazz era, but it's also gruesome and horrifying. And I think that the dark side of Sagittarius will be sated with this book. On the opposite side of the spectrum of a Sagittarius, rather than being a partier or a wild child, the other side of Sagittarius are immensely calm and very intelligent. Now, the Sagittariuses I know that are like that are all actors. Every single one of them. I know 3 of them, and they're all actors. It's freaking wild. And they love reading about deep, intelligent things that are going to broaden their horizon. So the thing I'm going to suggest for those Sagittariuses is Station 11. This is about a post-apocalyptic pandemic flu-like virus that goes around and wipes out so much of the population. And we're following that timeline and a lot of people and different points of views from that. But we're also following 15 years later with a traveling Shakespeare theater group. So you have the Shakespeare, you have the theater, you have the drama, but then you also have Mendel's writing, which is so deep and just thought-provoking. And I think that Sagittariuses, they are always in a thirst for knowledge. They love learning things and telling people about the things that they've learned. So I think that this book is something that you will not stop thinking about. And also, 2 of the 3 Sagittariuses that I know said that this is one of their favorite books of all time. So that's high praise. Capricorns are born between December 22nd and January 16th and are ruled by Saturn, the ruler of karma. They are also known to be the ruler of responsibility. So this is a sign that really leads in persevering and determination and hard work, while also remaining practical and sensible. I'm going to recommend Yolk by Mary H.K. Choi for one big reason, and it's that Capricorns have the darkest humor, the darkest. They do not make a lot of jokes, but every once in a while, out of the complete blue, they will state an opinion and it will shock you to your core, because they are so judgmental. They are so judgmental because they are constantly judging other people and comparing themselves to other people to make sure that they're better than them, that they're more far along than them, that they're more stable than them, making more money than them, they're healthier than them. This is a book about two sisters who are incredibly judgmental of each other. One of them is a very well-off, like, stock hedge fund, somebody, I don't know. She does something in the banking and she makes a lot of money. And the other one is an artist who is a complete failure in her eyes and is poor. So the rich sister gets cancer and she has to rely on the artist sister to use her health insurance and basically steal her identity. Well, the sister knows she's doing it, but when I'm telling you that the dark humor that is put between these sisters, the messed up things they say to each other, especially about the cancer, oh my God, it will shock you. It is crazy, but it's so realistic. And definitely if you have a sibling, yes. If you have a sibling and you're reading this and you think only siblings talk to each other like this, you have not met a Capricorn. The Atlas Six by Olivia Blake. This is about the Library of Alexandria, which everyone thinks is destroyed, but in this world it isn't. It's in hiding, and we're following a group of magicians who are competing to find out which of them are going to be chosen to become the new guardians of this library. Now, in this competition, obviously there's magic, but we also have this dark sexuality that I really relate to a Capricorn, as well as this society really only cares about money and power and prestige, all things that Capricorns covet. Now, we follow all of that as well as the just tumultuous, rife, dark, but sexual relationships that these characters have with each other. And I just think it is such Capricorn energy. And this book is so rich and opulent and just, oh my God. And it's also well known. Okay. So Capricorn, if you want to know what the girls are talking about and you want to be one of the girls that knows, then no. The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. I'm going to recommend this because I believe that Linus Baker, the main character, is a true depiction of a Capricorn. Now, his moon sign is probably like a Pisces. It's got to be a water sign, but his sun sign, or at least his rising sign, has got to be a Capricorn. So this is about Linus Baker, and he is a caseworker for orphanages that house magical children. And one day he is set to go and evaluate the House in the Cerulean Sea, which is said to be home to the most dangerous of these magical children. Now, when he gets there, it's like a found family of these unnervingly like optimistic and charismatic characters who are dangerous, who are trying to break him out of his shell and get him to smell the roses and stop and enjoy the little things in life, which is not something that Capricorns find very easy to do. And they do not break out of their shell. They don't like to talk about emotions. They don't like to get deep or whimsical. They like to be straightforward and logical. And I think a Capricorn would really enjoy reading about a fellow Capricorn that characters are really trying their best to make him happy and understand what love is and what setting aside responsibility can really free you from. And I think that they would really find this like a really cozy, lovely story. Aquariuses are born between January 20th to February 18th and are ruled by Uranus, which is the ruler of liberation and freedom. So this leads to a lot of eccentricity and individuality, and it also is a planet that rules with intellect over emotion. My highest recommendation for all Aquariuses is of course a sci-fi, because sci-fi screams Aquarius to me, and it's How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. This is a short story sci-fi dystopia where they're doing some research in the frozen tundra of Russia, okay? And they unearth this virus human beings have not come in contact with for a really long time, and we have no immunity to it anymore, and it sets about a pandemic that wipes out a lot of the human race. Now, here's the thing. The CDC in our real life is actually terrified that this is actually going to happen. Like, this is a very real possibility. And then this is short stories following the science and medical experiments and things that we have created because of this flu and pandemic and the technology that has sprung about because of this. And Aquariuses love to learn. They love to learn. They love to research. They love to tailspin conspiracy theory, and they love to talk about the things that they've learned. And because this could actually happen, I think that Aquariuses will think about this book for like the rest of their life. But again, like, I feel like this book screams Aquarius. I have another sci-fi, but this is a thriller, and it's The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. Now, this is cloning, which I honestly could stop right there and every Aquarius would already be buying this book. But this is about a woman in STEM who is very intelligent, very high in her field, and she is working on creating a clone. Now, her husband decides to make a clone of her and then starts seeing her behind his wife's back. And we're following like that thrill of like what's going on, and then like something happens to the husband and you're like, what happened? Was it the wife? Was it the clone? Like, what are we gonna do? Like, we can't both live in this world. Like, I don't want people to know the clones exist, blah, 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 blah. That's crazy. Awesome premise alone. But also, this woman, this scientist, she is very intelligent and she knows it, and she has no qualms telling anybody about it. She says what she thinks, and she knows that she's the smartest person in any room. So we're following a main character when we're in the point of view of her who has no qualms being intelligent and being loud about it. And Aquarians can be known to have that kind of cult leader, charismatic preachiness of intelligence. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because I do believe that if we could get over the way that the message was being conveyed, we could all learn so much from Aquariuses, because they research so diligently on the most varying topics that they are never without something to say and something to teach you. We Spread by Ian Reid. This is following an older main character who gets put into a retirement home against her will and is told that she is going through dementia. Now, she does not believe that she's going through dementia. She doesn't understand why she's being held hostage there against her will, and things happen to and around her that are really creepy and almost seem like a horror movie. But then when she brings it up, other characters say that's not what happened and tell the exact same situation in a different way. And we don't know what's happening because she also cannot trust her memory. And we're told you can't trust yourself. And I think Aquariuses would find this book so deeply horrifying because it plays on one of their biggest fears, and that is losing their minds, losing their intelligence, and losing their individuality. And that, I'm sorry if this terrifies you, Aquarius, but I feel like an Aquarius could also really resonate such deep empathy for this main character. So I would still suggest giving it a read. And then lastly, we have Pisces, which is born between February 19th and March 20th and is ruled by the planet Neptune, which is the planet of illusions and dreams. Now, they are also highly spiritual, which makes Pisces the most empathetic of all of the zodiac signs. I would suggest for Pisces, Erin Morgenstern in general, but namely The Starless Sea. So this is a book, I'm going to struggle telling you what it was about because as an air sign, as a Gemini, I had no idea what was going on, but this is about a library, a magical library. And this man finds a book that says it's about him. He's the main character. And then he doesn't see it again. And he's like, where'd the book go? Like, what's going on? Like, where do I get it? And then a door opens and he finds himself like kind of in this portal. And he's like, what's going on? And then this other guy is there and is like, wait, you can go through the door? Oh, okay. Well, we need to use you to help seal up these magical portals or whatever to make sure that they don't get out and that we can keep the world safe and everything. But Pisces are going to eat this shit up. It's a daydream. It's literally like a 400-page daydream. And not only than that, there's a romance and it's gay. It is gay. And every single Pisces and Gemini are queer in some way. Don't fact check me. I do not write the rules. It is the energy we give off, okay? And you can't prove me wrong. Now, this, when I say it's a daydream, there's like one story about like a pirate. I was like, what? Where did the pirate come from? Like, I'm so confused. But when I tell you, this is a 5-star for Pisces. It 1000% is. And then I have I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. So this is a book about art, and it is about Jude and Noah, who are brother and sister, who are growing up both infatuated with different forms of art. Now, they are very competitive and passionate about their art, and it drives them together as much as it does apart. Now, not only are you following that intrinsic art-driven life that I think a Pisces will really love because they are so imaginative and artistic, but we're also following 2 love stories, and these people find their love through art. So we're following Jude, who finds love with her art mentor, an older man. And then we're also following Noah, who's falling in love with the boy next door. And Pisces are going to love that gay storyline because, again, Pisces scream queer energy because they are the most open-minded. And not only than that, but they are willing to try like literally anything. So I think they'll love this YA classic. I had to have an emotional, tearjerker, heartwarming love story on this list because Pisces are so well known for being so in tune with emotions of themselves and others and recognizing emotions in others. So this, heartstopper, it's a gay love story. Another gay love story. Because listen, I don't write the rules. I do not write the rules. I'm sorry. But this is about Nick and Charlie. They are at this boys' school. Okay, they play rugby together. They become friends. And then they become more than friends. What? Oh my God, I'm literally obsessed. I'm obsessed. This is such a feel-good moment, and there's so many emotional, heart-wrenching things that happen in this book. But more so than that, there are things that are going to make you believe in love, that are going to make you believe in good people, in friendship, in family. It's just so sweet. And one thing that I think visually really depicts a Pisces in this is that this is a YA contemporary romance that has no magic at all, but anytime something sweet or like jittery is happening with these characters, these like sparkles, twinkles, leaves will be swarming around these two characters, and it's all in their heads. And if that's not Pisces, I don't know what is, because Pisces are so imaginative and they're dreamers, and they can come up with like anything. They can come up with a lie of something that happened. They could be like, oh my God, I was walking down the street and I saw a dragon. And the way they tell the story is so convincing that they literally gaslight themselves into believing it actually happened. Like, that's how good they are at it, okay? That's why so many cult leaders are Pisces. Because that's how good they are at believing their own shit. I'm telling you. Okay, anyway, anybody would love this book, but I think a Pisces would like hella love this book. Okay, that's it. I've tried to remain as energetic as possible, but when I tell you, I've had to stop this camera 3 different times and go and eat ice cream because my throat is so dry. And I've had to refill my water bottle 3 times. I've been talking for a really long time. Okay, I hope that y'all enjoyed this. If you've gotten to this far in the video, please leave your zodiac as an emoji down below. I would love to see how many of you are certain signs. If you did consider one of these that I talked about for your sign, a book that you really like or relate to your sign in some way, please let me know. Or if there's a book that you would recommend based on a zodiac sign, please let all of the community know down below. I would love that. And I will hopefully very soon be having another video talking about book characters that I believe are certain signs as well. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to follow me on Goodreads or Instagram, they are going to be linked down below, as well as a link to my Patreon, which is always a fun and chaotic time. I love it over there. And all of you bunnies, thank you so much for everything that you do for me. So I hope that you are all having an amazing day, evening, night, dusk, dawn, whatever it is you're having, in whatever part of the world you are currently having it in. And I will see you in a video coming very soon. Bye.
For change, looking for pain, pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane, pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less. Your check is I'm chess, what's happening next? Yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson. He got a new engine from pain, it's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold an obsession. All in his possession, you got their attention. I'll leave an impression and take your redemption. Just kill no discretion. Your mind is a weapon.